Creating a life you love in the law. Stop looking for your path. I want to read you a few lines from a poem that I love. It's by Joseph Campbell, and I used to have it printed on my door when I was a law lecturer. If you can see your path laid out in front of you step by step, you know it's not your path. Your own path you make with every step you take. That's why it's called your path. It's a very short but beautiful poem. And I'm reading that to you because from all the law students that I speak to, and even lawyers a little bit further on in their career, it seems somewhat ironic that the biggest obstacle to finding your path is constantly looking for it. Because what happens when you're doing that is it means that you're in your ego, so you're not allowing your greatness to unfold. Students are so anxious to have their careers figured out. They want a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and some even want a 20-year plan. They want to be able to imagine that they're in the corner office and that they're driving XYZ car. But life doesn't really work like that, and it's very rare, in fact, that people know exactly where they want to be and that that's where they end up. Maybe it's 1%. When we look at our lives, maybe it is that 1%, say a young girl who at 3 decides she wants to be a ballerina and then she becomes a ballerina. But even then, she will have no idea where her actual career is going to take her and which countries she's going to end up dancing in and which roles and how and where and what it's all going to play out. So let's just safely assume that you're in the 99% of the population who at this stage, apart from doing a law degree or perhaps a little bit further on in your law career, doing articles or training to become an advocate. So you don't know where it's going to take you. And my suggestion is that you just become okay with the not knowing. And I know that's difficult, but become okay with the not knowing. So start imagining that your life is the most exciting TV series. And just imagine that there are seasons to come which you can't know because they haven't been written yet. So if you know anything about how your favorite TV series are produced, they only write those seasons after the first ones have aired. And then based on what unfolds there, they decide where the plot line's going to go. So stop trying to have it all figured out. You can't guess ahead. And the sooner you stop trying to have it all figured out in advance, the sooner you can actually start enjoying the show. I'm going to talk quite a lot about that during this course because it's such a focus we have on the destination and where we're going to get to that we kind of miss the present. And that means that our levels of satisfaction are so much lower than they could be if we realize that this is it, what we're doing here and now. So by telling you not to look for your path and not letting you off the hook, it doesn't mean you just sit back, and that things are just going to unfold. Far from it. But the point is not to get yourself in a knot trying to have it all figured out. There is such an emphasis, especially at the moment, if you look at social media and inspirational Instagram quotes and posters, it's all about finding your purpose and your why, and it can feel very pressurized if you don't have things figured out. But the fact is most people don't have things figured out. People discover their life's work at all different stages of their lives. So for very few, it's early. For some people, it's in the middle of their lives. And then for others, it's much later, towards the end of their lives, that their biggest contribution is actually made. Because sometimes we need to have developed a certain amount of wisdom before we can make our biggest contribution. So figuring out what you're here to do is not something that you can apply brute force to, or just the force of your intellect, that you can sit down and create that plan and you can force your way through it. The other thing that's important to remember is that in your 20s and 30s, most of us are still trying to fulfill our so-called deficiency needs. So we are going through certain stages in our own development and we may not be as far ahead as we think. So we're going to look at that for a moment. This diagram is called the 7 levels of personal consciousness, and it's developed by an amazing man called Richard Barrett from the Barrett Values Center. And you can look that up. I'll give you a link shortly. If you look firstly just at the colored part, because I know there's quite a lot going on in this diagram, you'll see that it's divided into 7 levels. So 1, 2, 3 are the lower levels. And then you've got this level in the middle, which is level 4, the level of transformation. And that provides you entry to the next levels 5, 6, and 7. If you look on the side, you'll see in bold there's one word given to each of these levels. So the first level being about surviving. And that's really your physiological needs. So if you imagine as a baby, that's all you really are concerned with, is getting those immediate needs met. You need to be fed, etc. But even in our own existence, the bottom line is survival needs. So if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's where this developed from. You need to be able to pay the rent, buy food, etc. Moving up to the next level is the conforming level. And that's when we start to look at relationships. So you want to be safe and nurtured and have a place in your community, a place in your family, etc. The next level, differentiating. So at this level, it's also called the level of self-esteem. You want to individuate. So it's who am I, my own identity, as separate from this community, separate from this family. Who am I within it? And that's when you want to start excelling, high performance, doing what you do best. Then we get to this very critical level, level 4, of individuating. So that's where you let go of aspects of your conditioning. So the beliefs your family might hold that maybe you don't. Letting go of cultural beliefs that may not serve you. And it's choosing at this level, what do I need to let go of that no longer serves me? So it's not just rejecting everything you grew up with, but it's going, what no longer serves me? What is my path? And only then do you move on to the self-actualizing. So becoming who you really are. And that's, at that level, you really do need to know what your values are in order to lead a values-driven life. Another thing that may be helpful to know about this level of self-actualizing is that many people never actually get there in their lifetimes. This can be for a variety of reasons. So one of them would be if you have suffered quite a lot of trauma in your childhood and throughout your life, and as a result never managed to quite work through a lot of that, so that you're coming always from a fear-based mentality. That is something that would prevent you getting to the level of self-actualization. But remember that it's up to you how much work you're able to do on yourself, because no matter what has happened to you or befallen you in your life, there is always the opportunity for extraordinary growth and development. You've all heard stories of people who've overcome what seemed like insurmountable obstacles. So that's not an excuse, but it could be a reason why you don't get to that level. Another thing could be if you never get to a level of financial security, which keeps forcing you back to that survival level, just taking care of immediate needs, that would stop you from getting to the level of self-actualization. But when we look at patterns over, sort of generalizations, you would see that people generally only reach that level 5 around the ages of sort of 40 to 50. So that could happen in a variety of ways, and I'm just going to read to you a small paragraph from the book, which is called The New Leadership Paradigm. It's by Richard Barrett, who developed all of this model, and is an extraordinary man just in terms of his thinking, bringing in a lot of things, theories from other places like spiral dynamics that you may have heard of. So The New Leadership Paradigm is an amazing book, but there's a lot in it. So don't get too sidetracked unless this stuff is of particular interest to you. So he writes here that self-actualization usually begins with a feeling of unease, dissatisfaction, or sense of boredom about the work which you're currently doing. Somehow the work is no longer challenging. There's no passion there for you and no sense of creativity. It's not pushing you to grow and develop, and you start feeling a pull towards something else which is more meaningful to you personally. You feel a pull towards personal fulfillment that your job no longer provides. Uncovering that sense of purpose that brings passion to your life and gives you a deep sense of meaning is what self-actualization is all about. Then moving up to this level 6, which is about integrating, and that's also known as the level of wanting to make a difference in the world. At this level, it's not just about me, but you start looking at other people who might share your mission, who might share your vision for the world, and wanting to collaborate with others. So making a difference is key there. And then finally, level 7 is about serving or service. And that's where you're looking at the sort of the contribution you came here to make. So it's more about leaving a legacy, and it's the focus is not on me and ego anymore. And of course, some people get there a whole lot earlier, and some people never reach that stage. A couple more notes just to help put this in perspective. These aren't sort of rational, linear things that you go through step by step by step. It's far messier than that. You may have some event in your life, like the loss of a partner or massive financial instability, that actually pushes you right back to, levels 1 and 2. So things can change. It's not always, sort of an upward progression. And then to know that not everybody is able to move through all of these levels. And then to know that some people come here and really early on in their lives, they absolutely are here. I can already think of some millennials and people even younger who've come into the world, and in their teen years they already are making a huge contribution and are about service to humanity. You may want to think of some of those people who inspire you. But otherwise, it is helpful to have this in mind. Another way of looking at this model is to look at how level 1 is about our survival needs. So that's often physically, taking care of ourselves, which is why money is so important, because we need food and shelter, etc. The next 2 levels are about taking care of our emotional needs. Then we move up to the level of transformation, where you move into the intellect, but some people get stuck there, wanting to just understand everything when there's so much that actually isn't knowable. And then levels 5, 6, and 7 are about really moving into that higher sphere and looking at things from a more spiritual perspective, like a bigger perspective. And by spiritual, I don't mean necessarily that you have to believe in God or any particular religion whatsoever. It's just about understanding that people aren't at the center. We don't control everything. There is a whole world which is so much bigger and so much that we can't know. So it's kind of surrendering to the mystery of not knowing. It is immensely helpful to take this personal values assessment. So it's called a PVA for short, and you'll find it on the Barrett Value Center website. It takes, no more than about 10 minutes, because what you will be doing is picking your list of personal values from a list that is provided to you. Please note that these are your current values and not your aspirational values. So you don't choose, what you would like to have as your values, but what are your actual values? You may have heard of Dr. John DeMartini. He talks about values a lot. And he says that if you want to look at a person's values, look at your bank account, because what you spend money on, that's what you value. You can also look at what you spend your time on, because you will spend your time and your money on things you truly value. So that will give you an indicator of what's most important in your life. Where's all your time and energy going? What else? So you may want to actually engage with this values survey when you get it. You get sent an emailed a printout, and it will give you your values according to these different levels. It will help you give a sort of framework on where you're at right now. And what I want to encourage you to do is to use this. So put it on your wall, stick it in your journal, and actually engage with your values. When you have a big decision to make about, moving house or something that's big, look at your values and see if they can help you make your decision. Also, if you have a partner or a friend, you may like to discuss with them your values so that they become more a part of how you live, not just an intellectual exercise, but that you actually use them in the way that you live your life. Because having a vision-led and values-driven life will make it extraordinary. I hope that this has been of use, and please don't forget to do your Barrett Value Center survey, the PVA Personal Values Assessment.